there was a point, and I guess it'd be after high school, that I started meeting new people and hanging out with a different crowd. And slowly that took a hold of my lifestyle. And my walk with the Lord slowly faded away, and my walk towards the world kind of, became the wider path. And I started losing a sense of my morals and values. And looking back, it was a slow fade. But one step leads to another, and which led me into a bad relationship, and then one bad relationship after the other, and which led to drinking a lot of alcohol and really becoming miserable. I made a lot of poor choices and bad choices. I wasn't necessarily a bad person. I still loved the Lord. I would still go to bed and pray at night and know the Lord, but made very poor choices day in and day out. And it's kind of like that gray area, or the lukewarm area. Revelations refers to it as neither hot or cold. And it's such a dangerous place to live. And sadly, most of my 20s were in that lukewarm area. I started working with a godly woman from Red Cedar Church, and we became friends and would talk on a daily basis at work. And one day she just told me, she said, I'm going to give you some advice. And it was the best advice anybody's ever given me. She told me, you need to get your life right with God, and everything else will fall into place. And I said, yeah, I know, Rochelle. And I knew that she was right. And she stopped and she touched my hand and she said, no, you need to get your entire life right with God, and then everything will fall into place. And her saying it that second time to me was like, it sunk in. And I drove home and kept saying it over and over and over again. And woke up the next morning, and it was like the first thing on my brain, those words again. And I started making life changes. Like, got out of a bad relationship that I tried for 6 years to leave. And it took me 6 minutes with God. And I guess I've never really realized that before, but and it was hard, don't get me wrong, the changes were hard, but each change was easier and easier and easier until it became unstoppable. Came to the point where I needed to find a church, and I kind of shopped around. I went everywhere around the area and gave every church a good shot, and came to Red Cedar one summer morning to the 9 o'clock service, and I cried all the way through worship because the presence of God was so strong on me that I just, I had missed it for so long, and I think I kind of felt guilty for all of those years of my backsliding, and just that overwhelming sense of how He still loves me so much after everything I've done. And it's still emotional for me. When I left, Marla Scribna, who I've known my whole life, came up to me and said, what's wrong, dear? What's wrong with you? And she hugged me out in the foyer, and I said, oh, Marla, God is good. And she said, oh, yes, dear, He is. And she shook her arm, and I walked out, and I remember like turning around and looking back into the doors and thinking, I found a home. And it is emotional for me because I just feel like I'm on the right path here. So. My faith to me is hard to describe because it's like part of me. My husband doesn't currently know the Lord, so when we talk about faith, it's hard for me to tell him that I know that Jesus died for me and loves him. And because he doesn't have that faith, he just doesn't quite get it. And because it's so enrooted in me and part of me, he doesn't understand how I can be so confident on it. And that's what faith is. And it's hard for me to explain that to him sometimes. And we go rounds and rounds and rounds. you hear these stories that we've been seeing week after week, and they're, just so like motivating and touching, and I'm thinking, this isn't me. I know that I have a story. I know that it's there. It's probably a little bit boring, but I also know that I have more of a story coming when my husband does find the Lord and sits next to me at one of these things. That's going to be the best part.